India and UK have resumed trade negotiations on a free trade agreement, and the idea is to double bilateral trade in the next 10 years. Currently, the trade between the two countries is around $20 billion. Joining us right now to speak about the possibility of an early FTA and how this will help India and UK businesses, and also the mobility migration between India and UK is Richard Heald, the chair of UK-India Business Council. Richard, thank you very much for joining us. How hopeful are you of an early trade deal?
Well, we've been through this before. We've had conversations before. But actually, I'm slightly more optimistic than I have been. If you look at the momentum into the start of the negotiations, again, resumption, there's been a lot of work that's been put in. The new government started off with the Technology Security Initiative in July. They followed it up with a series of bilateral meetings between ministers in India as well as in the UK. And here we are with Johnny Reynolds flying in, spending 2 days sitting down with the Minister of Commerce and Industry. So I think the mood music is pretty good.
Right. Keeping in mind the current geopolitical and economic environment, what would be the three top asks of the UK industry?
Well, I think the ask of the UK industry really haven't changed in terms of wanting a more open access point, looking at certain tariffs, not all, elements of collaboration and cooperation, ease of doing business, which I know isn't part of the FTA, but continued progress on that, as well as elements like BIT, which again isn't part of the FTA, but is part and parcel. Investor protection is an important psychological point as well. So there's a whole package of elements that come into the FTA. Some are in it, some are not.
Right. In terms of product lines, could you give us a sense which are the product lines or areas where the UK industry is demanding more market access, both through reduction of tariffs and non-tariff barriers?
Well, I don't think demanding is the word that I would use. I think that UK industry wants to get more involved in India. You're talking about collaboration between the fifth and the sixth largest economies in the world. You mentioned $20 billion worth of trade, but I talk about $40 billion worth of trade in goods, services as well. So we do a lot together. Demanding is not the right word. I think collaboration and cooperation is the key takeaway of the FTA, what we're wanting to achieve. And where we're wanting collaboration and cooperation is in those future-focused industries and sectors where the two of us can work together in ways that are mutually beneficial.
So you're talking about future areas of technology. Will they be part of the FTA, areas such as artificial intelligence?
Yes, I mean, if you look at the, as I said, the TSI, the Technology Security Initiative, those are areas, whether they're specifically mentioned or not, but the chapters will certainly encourage collaboration in those areas. And it's technology, it's drones, it's aerospace and defense, it's low-level satellites. These are areas, quantum, these are areas where we can collaborate in a way that really will make a difference.
Right. Speaking about Scotch whisky, reducing tariffs on Scotch whisky has been an ask from the UK industry. India has also been mulling over it. Recently, we reduced tariffs on bourbon whisky coming in from America. Would the UK now want similar concessions?
Well, look, I noticed what happened in relation to bourbon whiskey, and obviously that's an interesting development. And we'd hope that similar applications, similar treatment is given to the UK. But let's hope. Let's see what happens.
Okay. And what about import of cars into India? Currently, the Indian government has come out with a scheme for manufacturing electric cars in India, whereby a company, if it commits to manufacturing in India and commits $500 million in manufacturing, then they can get an import duty concession from 100% on fully built cars to just 15%. Do you think that is something that will appeal to UK car companies, or what kind of tariff arrangement would you want in the FTA?
I think e-mobility is hugely important for both our countries. I mean, both our countries are really focused on achieving net zero targets. So I think that any reduction in tariffs for the encouragement inwards of manufacturing is to be welcomed. And I'm sure the industry in the UK will look at this very carefully to see whether that applies.
Which would be the remaining areas? There are 26 chapters in all in this free trade negotiation. A bulk of them, we're told, are completed. Where do you think the friction points or the areas of disagreement right now are?
Look, I'm an optimist. I don't talk about friction points or areas of disagreement. I personally don't believe there are red lines at the moment. Where we are at the moment is we've had 13 or 14 rounds of negotiations. We know the arguments. Both sides know the arguments. Where we are at the moment is the politicians are sitting down and discussing where compromises have to be made, where agreements are occurring. And I think that that's the point that we should be focusing on. I believe that we're very, very close to achieving our mutual goal, and that's what we should be focusing on.
Right. From the Indian side, there is a demand for greater mobility, especially for skilled professionals in business, for students into the UK. Do you think UK can make that carve out in the FTA? We're told that the big priority for India is business mobility and mobility of skilled professionals.
Well, there have been steps taken already by the UK government in relation to mobility, particularly in relation to business. But I accept that there are certain areas where there is still progress to be made. That is an area of discussion. It's highly sensitive both for your country as well as for ours. And I think probably best for me not to comment on that, but to leave it to the experts.
Right. Which would be the areas, according to you, will get the most benefit out of this FTA, if I speak about goods for that matter?
For goods, the area that I think will get most benefit from this is going to be supply chains. It is not so much you're going to see a stimulus of companies who are already invested here. These are the large companies. The benefit from both our nations is going to be those companies who have not yet entered the UK or not yet entered India, who can play a part in the supply chain. Those companies will take comfort that there is an FTA in place, that there are rules of engagement, there are rules of playing, and that they're welcomed. Those are the companies that I think will really benefit